Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first week of Scoobtober. I am JB, and with me is Millie.
Hi.
We have Sophie.
Hey.
We have Dan.
Hi.
And today we're going to be doing a special retrospective review. This week we're going to be focusing on Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo. So right now our plan is to have one Scooby-Doo Halloween movie a week that we're going to be reviewing. I mean, obviously we did review these prior, but this is going to be a little look back on some of the Scooby-Doo Halloween specials that we like, dislike, and anything in between. So yeah, I'm excited to get into this. So Millie, do you want to kick us off with...
So
What
I
are we going to be doing?
was say, should we start by discussing what we initially thought our expectations were for this movie? Because I think it's fair to say that Warner Brothers hyped this one up, and they don't often. But I think before this came out, we'd kind of seen scenes of Coco's warehouse and everything. I think certainly I thought there was a lot to be excited about. I don't know if you two felt the same. Dan, what was your kind of thoughts as the movie was coming out?
Yeah, well, I was actually, because obviously we had a Halloween movie release was it the year or two before? Was it Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo? So I was quite surprised that they were doing another Halloween one, but I was happy because I love Halloween. I think Scooby is very Halloween, it's tailor-made for Halloween really. So, but I definitely felt the hype, definitely. And I noticed that online social media, a lot more people were talking about outside of the Scooby circle. So I had high hopes for it.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, like you say, it just lends itself so well to Halloween. Sophie, with that being said, was it kind of like one in particular that you were excited for, or did it to you kind of seem like maybe, it was just another Halloween one?
I was definitely hopeful for it. However, with the movies that we had recently got and also this Guess Who series, I wasn't that hopeful for it because I haven't really enjoyed them. Um, but I'm happy to say that I was pleasantly surprised and I love this movie.
Yeah, Warner Brothers like to kind of keep us in suspense a little bit. You don't know whether to be worried or excited when they announce they're doing another Scooby-Doo project. It's a bit like, oh no, which way does this one go? But JB, I know, I'm pretty sure on the build up to it, you did quite a bit of content as well, where you were looking at those screenshots and kind of what had been teased so far. So, what were your expectations on what you'd seen?
I mean, that takes me back because I feel like the content's changed so much since even then. Because I was trying to think back to my trailer reaction, and I think we both did it together then. And that was before I was fully confident showing off the scary face that I'm sporting now. And that was when it was just have the phone pointed at the laptop, let's press the trailer. And I remember not being too excited for this one actually, because that was back when I fully knew Guess Who, before I knew that it was white bread and water. That was back when I only suspected that it was white bread and water, at least, from my perspective. So I was a bit like, oh, it's the Guess Who art style. This one probably isn't going to be for me. And I think because I was about to start lecturing everyone here about how different, a UK Halloween is like, but everyone knows, I don't think, at least not where we're from, it's as hyped as it is in America. So again, I don't have that many, and my parents were kind of boring. I don't have that many childhood Halloween memories to go back to, like, oh, I remember trick or treating. This is going to be a blast of the past. It was just, okay, guess who art style, Halloween, meh, I guess it'll be what it is. But again, like Sophie, I think very, very pleasantly surprised. But at first, my expectations were lower than actually they were for Crypto, which is surprising, but yeah, it is what it is. What about you, Millie? What was your initial reaction, or do you remember back to when you were first hearing about, I know this is haunted high rise there, Trick or Treat?
I remember being really excited for it. I think from looking at some of the factory scenes and stuff, you saw a slight indication of what was coming up because I'm pretty sure you could see the skeleton outfits from that episode of What's New and stuff. So I think the trailer gave us enough excitement to know that this was going to be something really good. And I think it's fair to say it certainly turned out that way. So kind of getting into the movie a bit, when it first starts, it's already, at the end of a mystery, kind of like The Witch's Ghost. And I kind of like that setup. I kind of like when they don't waste 10 minutes trying to set the scene. And again, kind of straight into it, you kind of were given a hint of that nostalgia feel, because I had those kind of the original winter outfits and stuff on. That certainly kind of got me really ready for this movie and quite excited to see what they're going to do with it. So Again, I know like it seems like we're just asking questions and going around in a circle, but like
I mean, that's kind of a good format, to be honest. Oh, it's just a free-for-all.
I mean, like, so for that first kind of until we get to, you know, Coco and everything, just that kind of snow scene. What's in general your kind of thoughts on that type of start to Scooby-Doo where you are jumping in the middle of the mystery, and how did you feel they did it on this occasion? And I guess we'll start with Sophie this time.
It definitely captivated me. If you know me, you know I'm a real sucker for all the classic winter outfits. Like they're my absolute favourite. I hadn't seen the original episode with what is it, like a cat demon creature. I think it's like one of the 80s episodes that haven't been released in the UK. But I knew it was still a throwback to that episode. But yeah, definitely like excited because I just love the winter outfits.
Yeah. Dan, what about you?
Yeah, well, I love all the winter themed episodes, so it was nice to get a nod to that. And yeah, I think in terms of when they do a Scooby movie, I always think it works well when they're in the middle of a mystery. Like you say, it was a Witch's Ghost, the live action Scooby also did that, so it was good. And I have seen the original. I think it was one of the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doos with the cat creature thing in the mountains, and I thought it was an odd choice, but nice. It was different because I know later on in the film we see a lot more of the more iconic villains. So I thought it was a good choice just you know, show a spotlight on one of the villains that probably a lot of the audience didn't really know. That was definitely for the die-hard fans, I feel.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And JB, how did you feel about the way that they kind of launched into this movie?
I'm feeling a bit icky because I always find it a bit difficult to go into a review in a movie that I know that I actively do enjoy and not make it just seem like I'm trying to do promo for the interview series. But it genuinely is. If I enjoy someone's work, generally speaking, I reach out to them for an interview. And so instantly now in my mind, I'm thinking, even in this opening sequence, I think my fear about the Guess Who art style kind of goes away, and I can't tell. I think it's a mixture between the work of two people, at least that I know. I mean, there's probably loads of storyboard artists and everyone that sets the scene that can get credit for this as well. But I'm thinking about the work of, say, Mary J. Hoffman, the character designer, and also Audie Harrison, the director, because I think for all it does stay with the art style of Guess Who, I think even evident in the opening sequence, there's a little bit of, and I think he worked on this, a kind of uncle grandpa vibe where you get a bit more zoom ins up close, which I think they were quite divisive at the time. I probably think they still are. And for all I'm a bit like, this isn't my preferred method necessarily. I just think it adds a bit more of a kick to the Guess Who art style that I think it makes it seem a lot more than just this is really nice to look at, than oh, this is actually really happening in front of me. So I think it was a lot more dynamic than anything I've seen from, say, a Guess Who so far. So instantly, this type of setup, I like what they're doing. And even though I'm not fully captivated with, oh, wow, it's the Catman, this is so much hype, because again, I don't really know too much about the Catman. It was a bit like, oh, wow, the way that they've at least reassured me that this art style is going to be something that I can enjoy throughout the movie is, I think, quite nice.
Oh, that's good. And I guess kind of this movie doesn't waste any time kind of getting into it's kind of my thoughts in that as soon as they unmask it, they get that sample of material and they're gone before they can even say the meddling kids line, which I feels like it grabbed your attention. You're a little bit like, okay, well, what is it that's so important to them that they're not waiting around to finish this mystery? Because that kind of does symbolize the end of the mystery. So I feel like it's really good for kind of captivating attention. And one thing that I always do really like, it's one of the reasons Mystery Incorporated is my favorite series, is when they tie movies together. Like when they tie Scooby Media together, it's not just each one standalone. And so when they say we're trying to work out who made all these costumes, and you get all the cuts back to the original episodes and everything, they don't waste any time telling us, like, I don't think they waste any time telling us why we love this movie and what there is to like about it. And I really like that they did show those scenes so early on. I feel like it was like really captivating. I don't know, how did you all feel about that kind of theme that they were going to be linking them all together? And when you saw those episodes and stuff, was it quite exciting? Was it a bit nerve-wracking?
I think it's a point in the Scooby fandom that always I'd never understand. And it's a lot of the fandom's obsession with connecting things, and everything has to be canon somehow. And if it isn't canon, then it isn't, it doesn't make sense. And it's like, my personal take is nothing in the Scooby-Doo franchise is canon unless specifically said so. Like, so James Gunn said a version of Scooby-Doo Where Are You happened before the live action movies, but not necessarily the 1969 version, just a spin on that. And so it's like, am I fully buying that this is now giving us canonical backstory to the original 1969 show? I don't think so, but at the same time, I don't look at that as, that doesn't make sense. That's kind of going to ruin the original series. It's just, okay, in a section of the Scooby-Doo multiverse, Coco Diablo did design those 1969 monsters, just like in another version, it's Sarah Michelle Gellar running away from the creeper, and it's Linda Cardellini trying not to get hypnotized by the ghost clown. So it's kind of a bit like that. And so when I just acknowledge that it's all in the multiverse, this is just a great callback. And I just love the art style. Like, maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit, but I just remember thinking when the 10,000 volt ghost first lights up, it looks like a little frame straight from the Scooby-Doo show, and how they managed to achieve that with the Guess Who art style as well, but it doesn't seem out of place, I think is really cool. So yeah, I like all that classic callback.
See, I must admit, I really like how they do that, having Shaggy and Scooby undercover. We see more of a dynamic character for them right from the start as well. And I think this movie has so many standout moments, but for me, seeing the 1,000 volt ghost lit up, you were just like, okay, oh wow, this is happening. This is going to be something that's really exciting to see. So I guess, Sophie, how did you feel at the start, like we say, when they started making just such blatant references, almost like to this is going to be a fanfare movie?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. I like when they call, but I mean, I love when they throw back to like old Scooby. I don't, and I won't expect it every time, but I think this time it was long overdue. I mean, like you had Cyber Chase, ages ago, and now and again, like Frank and Creepy, and I think it was about time we had a throwback. So I think it was definitely long overdue and definitely very much appreciated amongst the whole Scooby community.
Yeah, and see, I think that in a way, there's a way to be worried when they do this, because I remember seeing Return to Zombie Island, Curse of the 13th Ghost, and it's like they're touching on projects that we love. Be very careful. So I think it's almost understandable if people had felt a little bit of trepidation at this point, just like, oh no, where does it go from here? But I don't know, Dan, how did you feel when you saw, like we say, the flashbacks, the 10,000 volt ghost?
I absolutely loved it. I know Sophie's just touched there on Frank and Creepy. That was one of the things I liked about that film, where at the beginning they gave flashbacks, and at the end, obviously, it turns out to be, a couple of their old foes behind it. And I still remember going to see Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed at the cinema, and absolutely loving, like, seeing the Coolsville Museum, like all of the classic ghosts actually for real. So I love it, and I agree. The canon for Scooby's just at this point they can just pick and choose. It's always nice to call back for the fans. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. And I think honestly, one of the kind of key phrases that I'd take away from this movie is almost like creative freedom, because it doesn't seem like there's as many constraints as there normally is, and even to the point where it's not until now that we get the titles. Normally you'd expect to see them so much earlier, but it feels like we've already had a full episode before the titles even get there. And even then, they are just so well done. I love how it's the play on the original song. I love as well, and this kind of gives the motive away at the end, but like they're just so sad that you kind of would create a mystery for them just to make them feel a little bit better. It's just, I don't know, there's something about the titles that I absolutely loved. And I know, Scooby music is a big thing. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's not. But certainly for me, this felt, I know, just like a really good way to get into it. I don't know if any of you just want to kind of shout out thoughts at this point. I realize I'm kind of like digging deep on each point, but
I mean, it factors into maybe the only problem that I've got with the early part of the movie that kind of maybe ties throughout. And I'm not really the greatest fan of portraying the gang as adrenaline junkies that are depressed without mystery, because obviously it's what they love. So you'd be a bit like, yeah, maybe they're a bit down about it. It's not, what do they really do besides solving mysteries? But it's a bit like, I don't know. I kind of like their portrayal as good people that stumble across mysteries that happen to be happening. And because they're good people, they're going to set that right. I'm not really sure how much I enjoy I wish someone was in need of help necessarily, but I don't think they dwell on it too much. I mean, maybe Fred at the start of the wishing well, but even then, it's played for pretty fun laughs. So if they dwelled on it a bit more, maybe it'd kind of grate at me a bit. But that was kind of my only little at the start of it.
Do either of you two want to throw any thoughts about that kind of song and how that was all addressed as kind of like a nice little bridge almost into the main movie?
I would tend to agree with JayBee. However, for like this movie, kind of like a standalone, I did find it very clever. Like the fact that they were completely down, like they had no mysteries. I love it. I really do. I don't know why. I would usually agree with you, but just for this movie alone, I think it just worked.
Yeah, I almost like how they did the wordplay on the original song as well. It just was almost, I don't know, it's almost like the original song's kind of like the excitement of the mystery, and then this song's literally like the yeah, but then what when it's done? And I don't know, they just twisted the words really cleverly. I don't know why I enjoyed it so much. But then what about you?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Sophie on this one. I think normally Scooby-Doo works when they just travel around and they just stumble upon mysteries. But in this case, I think it was cute, a cute idea, and obviously it tied in with the end. So no, I think it worked for this film that, they were quite sad. They just wanted a mystery to solve. I liked it.
Yeah, I did too. I think it worked really well. And then we're gonna get into kind of like the main body of the mystery. But one thing that I do want to point out is how early as well they were showing Velma's crush on Coco. That was amazing. I remember sat screaming at the TV going, oh my gosh, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Oh my gosh, they're actually doing it. Like, just been so excited because there's so many times we see things alluded to, but it's kind of like, oh, that's a theme that we maybe can't explore, or oh, we can kind of make a clue about this, but we don't want to elaborate on it. Whereas it almost felt like this movie was made without Warner Brothers been allowed to see it, been allowed to sign off on it. It's like, this is what should have been done 20 years ago, and now it's finally out there.
Yeah, I know people we've spoken to have praised how like accepting Warner Brothers were, and 100% that's good. I'll personally refrain from throwing a party about Warner Brothers doing this, because when I actually sit back and think about it, like they did chicken out of doing it in 2002. Maybe the representation wasn't there. But then when you look at stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that did it back before we were born. So it's a bit like maybe they're a bit too late, but I do like how that introduction was. And again, it was a surprise and a nice surprise. I mean, for me.
It was, but it's also really nice how they just inserted it so naturally and nicely. And it wasn't like they were doing it to make a statement or win points. It was just a nice, natural part of the movie. Did either of you two get kind of as excited about that as I did?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it was for me personally. It was an amazing sort of statement, and it's nice to know that kids will be watching that and they can see that Velma might have a crush on a girl, and that's okay. Like you say, it was meant to be. James Gunn said she was meant to be gay in his version, and obviously they made it not, and then obviously she gets a boyfriend in the sequel. Um, Mystery Incorporated kind of hints towards it with hot dog water, but again, Warner Brothers could deny it if someone said, is she gay? But no, I liked it. I thought it was very in keeping for Velma's character. We've seen her sort of crushing like on Ben Ravencroft and other characters, so it was very in character for her to react that way. And I liked how the gang were just accepting of it. They just, it wasn't like a big deal made. And just personally behind the scenes, obviously, when I knew going in that that happened because my Twitter just exploded with all the clips and everything. But also, I know Hayley Kiyoko, who played Velma in Mystery Begins and Curse the Lake Monster. She's openly gay, and she actually posted on her Instagram about and said how happy she was for Velma. So I thought overall it was just really positive.
There was just something about Velma's character in this, though. It seemed to suit her so well, because in so many movies I find Velma quite irritating.
Yeah, there was a bit of criticism, like they didn't mind it, but they didn't like how they made Velma's whole personality. And I kind of get that, but then I'm kind of like Scooby fandom. Velma's personality for the last 5 movies was debunking ghosts and kind of crapping on the plot lines of beloved movies. What do you mean that you wish they didn't make the film? Like it's distracting her from ruining stuff. Like, come on, like at least let's be happy that Coco is distracting Velma from going, that's not real, this isn't real, but ghosts don't exist. Like, come on. If Coco was in Return to Zombie Island, I think that'd be a lot better. There'd be no swamp gas, that's for sure.
I just think it seems like Velma's element. I think it's the best version of her we've seen. And so I know it's almost like it was always kind of meant to be, and should have been a manageable character if it hadn't been like we'll just allude to this but not commit to it kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a huge step forward, and I'd love to see Coco in more movies, because that's the relationship I want to see continue to build. Sophie, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, Millie, it was so natural, like slotted in. They didn't make a big song and dance about it. It just happened. Like everyone was accepting, and we like moved on. I think when JayBee mentioned, yes, it was her whole story arc, but like for the past like 50 plus years, her story arc's just been debunking, solving mysteries. And this movie allowed something else to be part of her character development, which I thought made Velma a more complete character. So yeah, I think it was definitely positive. Yeah.
I think if Velma hadn't had something like that, and it was just her character again to debunk mysteries, especially given that they were going right back to the original content as well, I think it would have caused far too many problems. So I just don't think that normal Velma would have fit well how they normally portray it. So just all worked so much better. There's so many reasons why I think this could be one of the best Scooby movies, but we'll get onto that a little bit later.
Dan alluded to something that I really, really liked about that dynamic. Say removing that it was hinting at relationships, because I know there's people out there that don't like any type of relationships in Scooby-Doo, and I do understand that point of view, and I do think there definitely is some flaws with that. But if nothing else, I love how that crush on Coco led to Velma opening up to Daphne, and they showed a lot of their friendship. Like when Velma needed help, Daphne didn't hesitate, but she was in there with advice and support. And I think there's not often that we get to see their friendship as people, because it is always about how do we solve the mystery, or let's just make some quirky jokes to each other. Whereas that was showing maybe if there wasn't a world where there's mysteries, those two could still get along as friends. And I think it opened up some niceness there that I don't think we get enough of.
Yeah, no, certainly led to some really nice moments for them too. And of course they team up with Coco, because Coco, there is like the new phantoms and Coco's not made the outfit, so she's gonna help work out who did. And of course this is around one of the best scenes as well, when they go to the prison and see all the inmates that they captured as well. I loved all these nods to like the originals and stuff throughout. This was just so good to see.
Yeah, it's a bit scary because I can't imagine them walking through that prison just with people that they've locked up all around them. It was a bit Batman-y, I guess, with the Arkham Asylum, but I like it a lot. And I love how they differentiate it. For all they don't degrade the other villains, it's they're flumped together behind bars, but Coco's in some like super max isolated prison. So it even elevates her a bit more above that, which I think is cool. Oh, but yeah, I like Coco a lot. I do like Coco.
I'm about to make a weird comparison here, and it is strange, but because you see them get taken away at the end, but you never actually see them in jail. To me, that was kind of like seeing your teacher outside of school. It was a little bit like they don't exist beyond this, right? And like you don't ever think about these people actually being in jail for a prolonged amount of time. It's just kind of like, oh, they unmasked them. To me, it was like, oh gosh, yeah, this like real consequence. It just felt weird to see. I don't know, did either of you two kind of understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, my favourite part, just seeing all the faces, and you could like name what episode and what villain they were, and like it was just so much fun. Like you'd have to pause it and just go through each and every one of them. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it was really fun to see. Dan, did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy like little Easter eggs of trying to like see who people were and everything?
Yeah, but I remember when they released the trailer for it and they showed the scene in the prison, and it's just fun because you say you're able to spot people, you're able to say, oh, which villain was that? The one that really stood out to me was from Foul Play and Funland, it's Sarah Jenkins, but I don't think she got arrested at the end of that episode, so it makes me wonder what she did after that. After Charlie the Robot to Warren going to jail. But and like you mentioned before about Coco being her own separate area, I like that. It was very much like Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs or something like, she was that iconic. She gets her own little space. So yeah, it was fun. That's again the sort of thing that Scooby can do now, where just throw little Easter eggs for the fans.
And I think it goes to show how amazing the animation was as well, because obviously Scooby's gone through so many animation styles and ways of animating and everything throughout the over 50 years. But for us to be able to recognize people from over 50 years ago, I think it was quite impressive, really.
Yeah, and I guess I'll throw this in there. I think if it wasn't for the SAG-AFTRA strikes, I think I would have had the voice of Coco Diablo on the interview series. I mean, that isn't ruled out because we have been speaking a lot, but that is my dream Trick or Treat interview that we haven't done. There's talks about that. If it wasn't for the strikes, I do think that would have either happened already or it would be happening this month. Right now, nothing's solidified, but it isn't impossible. But I do think that we've got a load of really exciting Halloween interviews that I've prepared. But I'm just kind of throwing that out there. Definitely dream Trick or Treat interview, Myrna Velasco.
See, I want to kind of say something else about Coco while we're on the topic, and I did kind of say it briefly earlier, but I think lightning kind of rarely strikes in Scooby in terms of additional characters. Like the Hex Girls, for example, that's where lightning struck. That was something exceptional. So much so that they broke that formula and actually brought them back on more than one occasion. And I think Coco's the first time I felt something like that, where I feel like lightning strikes and it's a character that we need to see again. I think there's just something about that character that feels different.
I mean, my thing is, and it isn't necessarily that I think if Coco never shows up again, I wouldn't be heartbroken. I love Coco in the movie, love the performance, love the design, but I think it just gave me a lot of hope that despite all of that, people are on about things with like Mindy Kaling's Velma, like why do we have to change characters? Why can't we make new characters? And kind of before all that, I think to myself, maybe like, well, when you talk about new characters, last time they tried to do that properly, it was Scrappy, and then Scrappy became notoriously hated. And so there's a bit of like, well, when can we introduce new characters? And I think if we just have a Coco every movie or that equivalent, there could be one that breaks out. And I think the fact that they can develop a new character quite quickly, just in one singular story, I think is good. So I'd definitely be open for Coco returning. But beyond that, it just gives me hope that the right writing team and production team can bring in potentially iconic people to the Scooby-Doo world that we don't know about yet. So I love that.
Do either of you two kind of have any thoughts on that? Like, another that being a character, or perhaps we could see one in the next couple of movies that is going to be a bit more of a permanent fixture.
Yeah, I would love to see Coco come back, but I definitely think, like you say, it's just so rare that lightning would strike. But and again, I think the Hex Girls is a good example. Obviously, we know they met the gang in Witch's Ghost, and that was like the monsters are real. But obviously, they still appear in series and films where the monsters aren't real and the gang don't believe in ghosts. So, but they just don't acknowledge it. They just somehow know the Hex Girls. So, yeah, I could definitely see like say Coco coming back, and you don't even have to reference this movie. You just, oh, this is just someone Velma has a crush on, or this is just someone who the gang know. But yeah, I'm fine with recurring characters. Like I don't mind like if it's going to be set around Coolsville or Crystal Cove having the same sheriff or just something to give it a little bit of continuity. I don't mind.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely like to see Coco again. She's just like such a great character. I mean, to be honest, I think we need more Hex Girls, to be honest. Like, I know they're in like every other series, but we need more of them. I know this is so random, but I love Del Chilman from like What's New Scooby-Doo like
Yes.
era. And if he came back, like if he was like Mystery Inc. HQ and he just like there behind the desk, like this is your next mystery, like we're gonna go and sort vampires out in Transylvania. I just want to see Del Chilman again. It's so random, but I love him.
I think it was Joe Sictor that liked bringing him back, wasn't it? Like he showed us those photos of the original designs for Del Chilman's van, and it was so fun. What was he? He was in Loch Ness Monster, and then
Right.
Chill Out. Were there any
Yeah.
other appearances, or was that his? That is cool though how they brought them back. I mean, how many was Googie just in one, or was Googie in two?
That's just in one.
One, yeah.
The
But there
Reluctant
was
Werewolf.
some. I don't think of any other characters that are like really standing out apart from Del, Googie, and Coco.
Scooby-Doo could count.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, Scooby-Doo, Flim Flam, and
I guess DTV
Red Heron.
introduction. Oh, Red Herring's a good one.
Mm.
But I'm wondering about any that were introduced in like, just the DTVs. And I
It's
can't
rare that they
think
do.
of many.
I think it was mainly the Hex Girls. The Hex Girls is the key one where it's kind of like they don't just do 3 movies together in the Hex Girls in all of them. It's kind of like every so many years the Hex Girls come back, and we just keep hoping that they keep coming back a lot more frequently. And I think honestly, short of doing another Hex Girls movie, which I'm not going to comment on, I think this is the best soundtrack they could have made without something like, oh wow, we got a new Hex Girl song, because obviously you get Ballroom Blitz, Change, there's so many songs in this, and we watched it last night ahead of doing this review, and I was humming some of these songs at my desk at work today. Like, the music in this is absolutely stand out compared to some of the Scooby movies we've had recently.
Yeah, and the scene as well. Like, there's so many like quirks. Because even then, I've ranted about Coco because I love Coco, but I think there's also like another one. And I'm blanking on the name. Who am I thinking of? Trevor Gloom, who isn't, I don't think, as instantly appealing to me as Coco, but just those little quirks when they're fixing the mystery machine and Fred's like really happy, and then just Trevor comes out of nowhere with that bat and just hangs it on something, and Fred's just like really upset with him. Just the little quirks that they even give to the side characters, I think is just I don't know. I don't know. I do like what they've done with about everyone in here. I mean, maybe the warden out of anyone comes across as a little bit on the obnoxious side, but I mean, it's the culprit. They're not. If anyone's gonna grate on you, maybe that's a bit of a clue. And the police officer in this, even he's got a personality. So, yeah.
And I think the personalities are quite key, because I think really, if you look at the villains, which I guess we'll discuss after the music, but like they very much fit the theme of Gloom. You could think that it was him that would have created those, because anyway, we'll get onto that. But did either of you two notice in particular that like the music was a bit of a step up for this one, or perhaps notice the opposite if you didn't like it?
Definitely a step off. I think it created so much atmosphere compared to like previous movies. It had like the eeriness to it, and it also be like fun at the same time. I know probably movies prior to it's been a bit more comical, but this one I kind of got this real like eerie feeling, as well as like the goofy side of it, and I just think it was like perfect.
Yeah, I need to check. Is Change and Andy Sturmer? Because I know that a lot of the Scooby-Doo movie go-tos for like original music is Anthony Sturmer, who I think, well, Andy Sturmer is great, but I do feel like it was different. I mean, even going through the credits, I think there's a lot of new people in this. And I think, again, we've known as much as I think this was going to take the whole Scooby-Doo TVs in a different direction in another reality. But I don't know. I think there was definitely something different about this one.
Dan, what about you? Did you enjoy the music for this one? Because I think for me, it's certainly one of the ones I'd most ask for the soundtrack of, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I was like, I loved the music for like say the Zombie Island era, and then I really loved in the 2010s. I loved like the soundtrack with Stage Fright, Music of the Vampire. I thought they did well, but the last few years the soundtrack hasn't really stuck out to me. Like when I think of like The Sword and the Scoob or something like that. I couldn't really recall the soundtracks, but for this one, no, it was really good. And yeah, I think I would like the soundtrack for this one. It was really good.
No, I completely agree. And like you were starting to speak about JayBee, what do we all think to what the villains look like in this? Because obviously it was an adaptation of the gang. It was almost like, I don't know, kind of like Cyber Chase era of the gang meets themselves, but only this time it's kind of like the bad version.
They're quite freaky, not just like what you see in the movie, but if you really deep their appearance, like when there's a bit of someone's cheek kind of missing, it's like, oh, that's a bit scary. They somehow make like zombie Daphne even thicker than Guess Who Daphne, and it's kind of like, I mean, someone made that decision. I'm there for it, but again, they're good though. I could argue maybe just dark versions of the gang is a little bit lazy, but I think they do it all right.
Oh, what do you two think? Did you like that they kind of put a darker spin on the gang and kind of made them the villains?
Yeah, I like that. Again, it's sort of kind of like a little nod to what they've done before. I know the Valentine Scooby-Doo of What's New sort of touched on that as well, where the gang were the villains. I think it's a cute concept, so I like seeing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was a clever idea. I mean, I want it every time, but as we say, for this standalone movie, it just works. So yeah, I was really happy with it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of elements that like we're a bit like, sometimes we'd say no, but on this occasion it just kind of works. And I feel like there's quite a few of those really. Another thing that I guess like, it would almost grow tired of it if they did this all the time. But the moment when they get dressed up for Halloween as the old villains, like Daphne as the space kook is honestly one of the best things I've seen. I absolutely love that.
Well, what I like about this, and this is probably a connection that no one made, but I love when you can kind of draw parallels between something so much. I don't know. Me personally, I feel like I'm a split personality sometimes. Like even behind us now, there's a whole entire collection of Scooby, but underneath it is Stephen King. And I really like movies that teeter that edge. So one that I'm thinking of is Cabin in the Woods, which is so funny, but also kind of horrifying as well. And the ending of that scene, when all hell breaks loose, they kind of did a family friendly version of that at the end of this. So when I was watching and reacting to the movie for the first time, and all the prisoners get released onto like the streets of Coolsville, I'm like, this is literally like a child friendly Cabin in the Woods. And I really loved it. Like all that sequence. And even when we watched it yesterday, I kind of almost forgot. Like when the mystery was all wrapped up, I was like, oh, that was really sweet. I almost forgot about that sequence.
Yeah, you do. Almost kind of does cross a line in that there's a lot more threat to it than some Scoobies. Like you've physically seen these people in jail and they then get out, and that's like quite a high threat level, but they do balance it with some really nice kind of like wholesomeness.
It also eliminated one criticism that I thought I was going to come to this review with, and that's that the title wasn't the best because it's Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, but the whole start of it's about Shaggy and Scooby missing trick-or-treating, like they miss out on the trick-or-treating aspect. So I'm like, why would you call it that? But then when you think about how all the gang need to dress up and save kids who are trick-or-treating, it actually made it make a little bit more sense. So it kind of eliminated that criticism that I thought I was going to come here with.
So we absolutely love Sophie's art. So I'm interested to hear what you thought about how they animated this and adapted this and had them kind of fit to the villains' costumes.
I think the mashup was like spot on. Like you couldn't have asked for like a better mashup. A little like heads up for Scoobytober, one of the prompts this year is Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, and I've actually drawn the gang in their like villain costumes, and it was so much fun to draw. And like in the movie when they like did like the sequence, it was like a cheering moment, like it was so exciting. But I think, yeah, they assign their characters right for everybody. I'm a little bit biased. My favourite villain is the Creeper. I would have liked the Creeper in there somewhere. But no, it was so fun. I loved it.
Yeah, it was really fun. Dan, did you enjoy it? Was there a favourite kind of collaboration of two that you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, I really liked it. I liked how you could still see parts of the gang, like Fred's ascot and stuff. I thought that was really clever and cute. It really did remind me. I could picture like just a fan creating that, and then so seeing it on screen, it was really good. In terms of my favorite, I think what I like, and we know we touched about it in the beginning. The most of the gang are like these iconic villains that we know, and then Scooby's the cat sorcerer. Um, but again, I like that that's so random that they threw a bone to the 80s. And obviously, I know in Zombie Island, Scooby hated cats. So I thought that was quite a cool little combo.
Yeah, that was definitely fun. And also, I really liked when Shaggy and Scooby dressed up as each other before that as well. I don't know why, but that amused me a little bit too. And then obviously we're kind of getting towards the end and the unmasking. And like we said, it's just got a bit of a wholesome end, really. Like, it was just a fan of Mystery Inc. that didn't like seeing them sad, so they made a mystery. And like, I think that kind of, like we were saying, where it almost has this high threat level, it almost just balances it all out at the nice, and you can at the end, and you kind of get this warm, fuzzy feeling almost. It's a bit strange because, like we were saying at the start when you first saw the titles, that's sad that you would have made a mystery for them just to make them feel better. So when someone's actually done that, you're like, oh, that's quite sweet.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just the wackiness of that whole build at the fact that the warden was listening into Fred, and I just think they do so much wacky with this that I think I can't 100% see it putting some people off. Like thinking back to that sequence, the way Fred's talking and the fact that the Scooby gang, they get their face stuck to the window and it kind of looks a bit odd. I can understand how that would put people off. But for me personally, it was just that level of wacky and strange and irreverent that it was my type of movie. So yeah, the warden reveal I liked. I don't think it wasn't a difficult mystery to solve, but at the same time, I don't think there were too many clues apart from the wardens developed technology in the prison. But again, I don't think the whole point of this movie was necessarily let's have people guessing who it's gonna be.
I was almost too entertained to think about the unmasking at the end, and then it just happened.
And there was the Coco red herring, which was interesting.
And certainly the Gloom person, Trevor Gloom, is it? Because it was his style, you could have easily thought that it would have been him.
And that's what I mean with the weirdness, because then he does get unmasked, and it's some surfer dude. And I kind of think, what other movie could that have happened in? It happens, it's wacky, but it's like, oh, okay. I don't know, it's just all the times of these Scooby-Doo movies in the past, I've liked a lot of them, I've respected a lot of them, but I just this is the first one in a while that I'm like, to come up with that concept and execute it and have it in the movie, you've either got to be really wacky, really creative, or high as a kite on coffee. Because I don't know, I could feel the personality behind some of these sequences. And I think that's kind of the recipe for the type of movie that I like to see.
It's definitely got more personality, I think, than a Scooby movie in a long time. It does feel like it was made by fans for fans. And from speaking with the people that worked on it, that very much seems the case. They made the movie they wanted to see, and it was the movie we wanted to see too. So, Sophie, how did you feel about the unmasking and how the movie was wrapped up and everything?
I've got like so many things to say about this movie. I think we said it before. Because it's like such a standalone movie and like we haven't had one previous, and as we know, not one coming up anytime soon, you like let it off for a lot of things, but I think it had the perfect balance between like wacky and then like scary. So like everything balanced each other's out, and wacky and scary is exactly what Scooby is. So I think it's like a really perfect balance. I'm just gonna say I love Trevor. Like usually I wouldn't like that sort of character, but oh my god, he's my spirit animal. He was like amazing, like honestly. But yeah, even though it was like quite a wacky ending, it kind of just like went with the vibe of the movie, and that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. And I don't know how it's possible, but it almost seemed like a nostalgic movie without us never having seen it before. Like it just felt like it was one of the core collection, like the zombie islands, the ones that you always go back to, the witch's ghost. For me, it's kind of cemented itself there, and despite it being the first time I watched it when it just felt familiar. It was such a strange feeling in a way. Dan, what about you? How did you feel at the end of this movie with the unmasking and the character that was revealed that it was and everything?
Yeah, I remember when I first watched it. Again, I don't know. I think because the whole film was just so like it was such a fun ride. But yeah, the unmasking, I remember being a little like, oh, okay. But I rewatched it this morning because I knew we were going to be reviewing it, and then being able to see that beginning bit again, where you see the gang really down about not mysteries, it kind of then made a bit more sense when I watched it about how the reveal would be. But yeah, I do think the film is just fun, and it does feel like a love letter to the fans. Like you say, there's Easter eggs to some like obscure Scooby episodes. There's just little nods. It again, it's just a fun film. It is just a nice, easy watch. Like when I put it on this morning, I got quite a shock at just how quickly it just seemed to go. Like before I knew it, it had finished. It was yeah, just like a nice little film, and definitely one that I'll be rewatching at Halloween.
Perfect. So that brings us to the end of the movie, and it's time for our final verdict. So, JayBee, I guess we gave our verdicts on this a year ago. Can you believe we've had this movie a year already?
It's crazy.
But we'll do your verdict again. So, smash or pass?
It's a massive smash. It's one of the biggest smashes I could give, and maybe it's like if I had some nostalgia for it, maybe it's somewhat still recency biased, but I don't think so because I wasn't too kind to the crypto movie, and that was more recent. So I think I am relatively immune from recency bias. But yeah, complete smash from me. What about you, Millie? Would you smash or pass Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo?
I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. To me, this is a massive smash. I'd go as far as to say, for me personally, the best Scooby movie of at least the last 15 years. I think at the minute, the only one that rivals it for me is still Witch's Ghost, but it is right up there. Like, this is solidly within my top 3. And if you asked me to put a Scooby movie on, this would be the one that I went to. Like, it's just so fun to watch. I just love the entire vibe throughout.
If we're talking about like new classics, I could compare Camp Scare to Zombie Island, compare Trick or Treat to Witch's Ghost. I'm waiting on them to do like Cyber Chase, and
it was on the way, but they
what was the
cancelled it.
first one? What's
Alien
the third one?
Invaders.
Alien Invaders, yeah. I'm waiting for 2 more modern classics. And you know what, I do think Haunted High Rise would have been as good or probably better than Trick or
Yeah,
Treat, but
I think that would have been the Cyber Chase, and then we just need the Alien Invaders.
I'll get lost in myself.
No, I agree with you. That would have gone full circle really well, and that would have been really nice to see. So like we said, we did give our verdicts on this a year ago. So we now move over to you two, who I guess we've never got your official thoughts on the movie. So starting with Dan, for you, was this movie a smash or pass?
Oh, this film, without a doubt, was a smash. I wouldn't say it's among my top favorites, but it was such a lovely film. It was just a fun ride. It's definitely something I could watch on a yearly basis around Halloween and just have fun with it. I thought it was, like I said, it was a nice love letter to the fans, really. So I do really appreciate that, because this franchise has been going over 50 years. So it's nice to just see things get tied together. And yeah, no, definite smash.
That was amazing. It almost felt like a bit like an anniversary special. Like if this was the 50th anniversary movie, I'd have been so happy with that. Sophie, what about you? For you, was this movie a smash or pass?
Yeah, hands down a smash. Kind of a relief actually, because like what movies we've had previously, like they'd be a pass for me, and this is such a nostalgia kick, and it's such a fun movie, and like Dan said, it's just like a complete love letter to the franchise, and it's such a great movie.
I like that. And I suppose in the spirit of things moving on a bit, if I've done my timings right, this kind of review retrospective should be going out on Friday at 10 p.m. UK time. So I guess I can announce here that this week's interview will be with a writer, like teleplay writer and story writer of Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, Daniel McClellan. It's actually one of my favorite ones that we've done. And again, I don't like to rank these, but in my head, I'm a bit like beforehand, this will be fun, but I think it'll just be that really fun. But this one it really surprised me how good this one actually was and how much new stuff we'd learned, because we'd done a lot of trick or treat interviews that I was like maybe we know all that there is to know about this, but we don't. So that is a really fun interview. That should be set to premiere now, so make sure to click on that. I'll leave it linked in the description down below. If you're watching this live, turn the notification bell on and don't miss that, because it is a fun one. And fingers crossed there's more on the way, including hopefully Myrna Velasco at some point, because that's one that I've been wanting to do for the longest time. Like, I think 2 Q&As ago, we were asked what our dream interviews would be. And I said Neil Fanning, Jennifer Hale, and Myrna Velasco. We've done Neil Fanning, we've done Jennifer Hale. There's just that one more from that dream list that I want to tick off, and I'm gonna do it. So hopefully it's this month. If not, I will just do it in November or December because it's Coco. I mean, look, we could do it in December, right? Because isn't like don't America call hot chocolate Coco?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, is there a warm drink coming? And Coco is pretty hot stuff, I can't lie. So yeah, hopefully that's going to be on the way. I don't know, is that me wrapping up? Because I just got way too excited there for a minute.
Yeah, I think you meant to be.
Yeah. So let's do this one last time. Dan, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on social media as danfaz94. That's on Instagram, Twitter, and now Blue Sky as well.
Oh, that is awesome. I'll leave them in the description down below. And Sophie, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Scooby-Doo for life.
That is absolutely incredible. And of course, you can find all our link tree down in the description below, which has all the places that you can find us on. I like to keep that nice and updated as well. But yeah, that is our first Halloween retrospective. I'm not sure which one's next. I know that either our penultimate or our last will be Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. I think, again, kind of scrambling because of the strikes, but yeah, there's going to be some good stuff coming up. So thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you to everyone for watching. If you do want to see more, then please like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, happy Halloween.